doing geometry midterm review number 1. This is a sample of the first 13 questions on the midterm. So on the midterm, you will get a question very similar to this, just with different numbers or maybe a slightly different situation. But this is a sample of the question. So I'm going to work through it here. Whatever I write down on your paper as well. And then when it is complete, turn it into the basket. So here, it asks us to identify whether these are lined rays or line segments. So here we have a line segment because it has 2 endpoints. And then to name this line segment, we use this symbol. So you just click over here and AB, like that, point AB. Then for the next one, it shows a line. I know the printing on this is a little light, but it shows a line, so you would choose line. And then to name the line, you name a line with 2 points. So just CD. And any order for those 2 points is fine. For the next one, we have an endpoint here, and it goes on forever in one direction. This is called a ray. And then to name a ray, we use this symbol. And you have to name this endpoint first. Must name endpoint first. So when we name this ray, E has to come first and then F. Okay, and then for the next problem here in the figure below, WX is 3, so I'm going to just jot that down. XY, segment XY is 8. Find the length of WY, so it wants the length of this whole thing. We're going to use segment addition, so just 3 plus 8 equals 11, so that length is 11, and you would type that into the box. Okay, and then the next one, it says find the midpoint M of the line segment joining these 2 points. So here we're going to find the midpoint between 2 points. We do need an equation for this, so you're going to find the equation on your reference sheet, which you will have during your midterm exam. So on this reference sheet, we have midpoint formula right here. So you're going to identify this and then just write it down on your scratch paper. So it'd be x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2, like that. Then the next step is to label your points or your coordinates. Here are your coordinates here. So on your scratch paper, you would just jot this down, -8, -1, 0, 7, and then label them. So this would be x1, y1, and your second set of points, x2, y2. And then you can plug these values into your equation here. So add the x's, -8 plus 0 over 2. Add your y's, -1 plus 7 over 2. Like this, you will get -8 over 2 and 6 over 2. So this would be -4, 3. And that is your midpoint, your answer. And then you would just need to type it into the box, -4, 3. Okay, moving up to the top of the next page. Okay, for this problem it says calculate the distance between these 2 points. Now for distance, there is an equation for this. You're going to find the equation on the reference sheet. Distance formula is right here, so you would just copy this down. So here is the equation. It is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and then you'll take the square root of that answer. In order to plug these in, we do need to label the points. They gave us these coordinates here. I'm going to write them down and then label them. -8, 4, and -5, 9. So this would be x1, y1, x2, y2. And now that they're labeled, it makes it a little bit easier to plug into the equation. So third step, plug it into the equation and solve. So here we go. x2 minus x1, so -5 minus -8 squared plus 9 minus 4 squared. Okay, and then once I have it all plugged in, I can start the solving process. I'm just going to kind of skip down here. 5 minus -8, you would add the opposite here. So then this would just become +3 squared. 9 minus 4 is 5 squared. Get 9 plus 25, and that comes out 34. So square root of 34. And that's what you would put here. It wants an exact answer, not an approximation, so just put square root of 34. If you got something like square root of 25 or square root of 64 where you had a perfect square, you'd put that perfect, the whole number in there, but it says just exact answer, so you can leave it in the square root of 34 format. Okay, next question. Choose a term that has the given definition. So for this question, it'll all be terminology from chapter 1, so very simple terminology. It says part of a line consisting of two endpoints and all the points in between them. That would be a line segment. And there will be a drop down here with answer choices, so you can use the drop down to narrow down the choices as well. Belonging to the same line. Belonging to the same line would be collinear. And the next one, a figure formed by two rays that have the same endpoint. A ray here and a ray here, same endpoint, that forms an angle. Intersecting lines that form right angles, here we go, those are perpendicular lines. There we have it. Okay, the next question, this is a bit of a challenging one, some baseline knowledge that you need to solve this correctly. It has two intersecting lines here. You can see that these expressions represent the angle measures. Some review, a linear pair are two angles that come together to form a straight line like this, and for a linear pair, those two angles add to 180 degrees. Also, you need to know that vertical angles are equal, so you can set those equal sometimes to solve for a variable. Another key is you can only solve for one variable at a time. So when you look at this problem, find the two expressions that have the same variable. So these both have an x. So I'm going to use that first. They form a linear pair, meaning that these two add to 180 degrees, and I'm going to use that to solve for x. So this plus this equals 180, so I'm going to write that out. 8x plus 26 plus 14x minus 88 equals 180. 8x plus 14x, that would be, so I'm combining like terms here, 22x, 26, and negative 88 is negative 62, or minus 62. Then I'm going to continue solving, add 62 to both sides. I'm not doing this math in my head, I have it solved off to the side here. And then from here, divide by 22, and x equals 11. So I got x equals 11, I can plug that in here. With ALEKs, it will give you partial credit, so if you just get x equals 11, you do get half credit there. The next step would be to solve for z. Now vertical angles are congruent, so I can set this equal to z. 14x minus 88 equals z. I have two variables here, but now I know that x equals 11, so I can plug that in. Okay, 14 times 11, 154, minus 88, I'm getting there, 66 equals z, and that is my answer for that. So I would just type that into the box here. Okay, and that is it for that side. We're going to now flip the page over to the next side. So just flip it, and we're going to go right here. Page 3. Okay, so it gets a little bit simpler again. It says in the figure below, measure of angle 1 is 42 degrees. Find the measure of angle 2. Well, we do have a linear pair, and I made this little note. When you have two angles that form a straight line, they add to 180 degrees. So we can do 180 minus 42 to find this angle measure here. And the answer then would be 138. So that means this is 138 degrees, and you would just type that into the box here. Okay, the next one is a little bit challenging. We have practiced it a couple times at this point through ALEKs. It says the perimeter of a rectangle below is 76 units. The perimeter is the distance around a shape. It does say rectangle, meaning that opposite sides are equal. So if this is 4y here, then this is 4y. And if this is 3y plus 3, then this is 3y plus 3. we would have to add all this up and put it equal to 76 to solve for y to begin with. However, I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut and just combine like terms as I'm writing this down. So 3y, 4y, 3y, and 4y, that would be 7y, 10y, 14y. And then add my constants, 3 plus 3, so plus 6, and put that equal to 76, which is the perimeter. Now I'm going to solve for y. 14y equals 70. And then y equals 5. But this problem doesn't ask for y, it asks for the length of AD, which is this length right here. The expression for that segment is 3y plus 3. So what I'm going to do is just plug in 5 for y. 3 times 5 plus 3, 15 plus 3 is 18. And now this is the answer it's looking for. Okay, now on to the next one. For this one, it says find the area of a circle with a diameter of 18 inches, and it also shows that in the diagram. First step would be to find the equation on the reference sheet. So on your reference sheet, you would be looking for circle and area. Area of a circle is equal to pi r squared. Area equals pi r squared. Now in the instructions for this, it says use the value 3.14 for pi. And do not round your answer, that is also important. So once I have the equation, I can plug in the numbers and solve. For area, it does need radius instead of diameter, so the radius here would be half of 18, which is 9, so r equals 9. I'm going to actually solve this where I have a little bit more room. Area equals 3.14, the radius here, 9 squared. So I get 9 squared would be 81 times 3.14, and that comes out. Area equals 254.34. And because it's area space inside of shape, it is going to be inches squared. It says not to round my answer, so I'm just going to put that answer in just as is into this box and then choose this inches squared, and it'll tag that unit right onto there like that. Okay, the next set of problems for each pair of figures below, choose how they are related. So it's going to be looking at transformations, whether it's a translation, a rotation, reflection, and so on. So for this one right here, I know it's kind of hard to see, slightly printed, but going from this shape to this shape, that is a slide, which we call a translation. So you would choose translation. For this one, from this shape to this shape, it is actually rotating either this way or that way, however you want to look at it. So that would be a turn, also called a rotation. So you would choose rotation right here. For this one, it is sliding again, which is a translation. And then for this one right here, it is a reflection. It's flipping over that line, and we call that a reflection. So just choose reflection. Okay, and the next problem. Okay, for the next problem, it says the radius of a cylindrical pipe is 2.5 feet. The pipe is 26 foot long. It's nice that they give us a visual. What is the volume? As you can see, this is a cylinder. It also says cylindrical pipe. So we need to find the volume of this cylinder. So the first step is to find the equation on the reference sheet for volume of a cylinder. So looking at the reference sheet, we have cylinder, and volume is right here. Volume equals area of the base times the height. Volume equals area of the base times height. Now the area of the base is a circle. So in addition to finding this equation, we also need to find the area of a circle. Right here, area equals pi r squared. That is for the area of the base right there. So this is the area of the base. We actually now have to put this part of the equation into the volume equation. So volume equals pi r squared for the base times the height. And now that we have the equation set up, we need to plug our numbers in to solve. So I drew a little arrow because I knew I was going to run out of space. It does say to use 3.14 for pi, so volume equals 3.14. The radius here, 2.5 squared times the height, 26 feet, and we can solve. You do need to make sure to use order of operations, so 2.5 squared comes out to 6.25. You just plug that into a calculator to find that. And then the last step is to multiply these three numbers together, and you will get 510.25. Now it says to round your answer to the nearest whole number, so that would be right here. And we need to also use the correct unit. So our whole number would be 510, and the unit for volume is feet cubed. And there will be a selection over here where you can choose feet cubed. Okay, next set of problems. Consider the conditional statement. If a person lives in Alaska, then the person lives in the northernmost U.S. state. Okay, so conditional, and I wrote this out as a note here, is P then Q. So here we have P, the first part of the statement, and Q, the second part of the statement. Okay, and then converse is Q then P, inverse, not P then not Q, and contrapositive, not Q then not P. Okay, and now we can use this kind of as a key as we go through these. I am going to be using some abbreviations. For person, I'm going to draw person. Alaska, I'm going to use the abbreviation AK for Alaska. Person looks like this. We're going to draw person instead of writing it. Lives in the northernmost. I'm going to use this symbol for northernmost. U.S. state. I'm just going to say state. So this will make it a little bit easier. So converse of this statement. Converse is Q then P. So this part of the statement, then this part. So converse would be if a person lives in the northernmost state, then the person lives in Alaska. Person lives in Alaska. Okay, so then for inverse, not P, not Q. So if a person does not live in Alaska, then the person does not live in the northernmost state. On the exam, there'll be a drop down and you're just choosing it. I'm just using the abbreviation so we don't have too much writing. So if a person does not live in Alaska, then they do not live in the northernmost state. Then the person does not live in the northernmost state. Okay, and contrapositive, not Q, not P. So if a person does not live in the northernmost state, they do not live in Alaska. Person does not live in northernmost state, then the person does not live in Alaska. Okay, then for the next problem, the last problem on the page, it gets easy again. Measure of angle 1 is 47 degrees. Measure of angle 2, 28 degrees. Find X, W, Z. So the whole thing here. Well, we can just use angle addition. 47 plus 28 would give us this whole thing. 47 plus 28 is 75. So the whole thing would be 75 degrees, and we can type that into the box there. Okay, and that is all. Don't forget to turn this into the basket. Turn into basket. Make sure your work is shown, and I will see you tomorrow.